This is Talk is Sheep, a podcast by the Wild Sheep Society of British Columbia. Come along as we take conversations that matter to you into the high alpine.
Mr. Hamilton.
Mr. Stelter.
Okay, so we're meeting on less than exceptional terms here. We've had a bit of a rough week for wild sheep in British Columbia. So we sit there on this talk with Peter Gutsche. He's a director with the Wild Sheep Society BC. And I'm sure all of you know that we had a event this past week in the Grand Forks area, Bluetongue Virus. That just a freak thing that's affected our wild sheep and huge mortality numbers in BC here in the Granby Herd, as it's known, and devastating effect. There's literally dozens of dead sheep on the ground in the Grand Forks area.
Yeah, like this wasn't even a planned episode. This was holy crap. We need to put an episode together to get some information out there for the support we've had and the questions we've had, and clarify some information, dispel some information, and hopefully give people a better understanding of what's actually going on the ground. Pete is the one you've seen in the pictures that are circulating on social media and on news websites that's there. So we graciously got him on his behalf to take an hour of his time to step away for a bit of a break to give the listeners a bit of a hands-on look at what's on the ground.
Yeah, this is a tough topic to talk about, but to see this mortality in wild sheep. The irony is though, across the landscape, we've seen with mycoplasma pneumonia much higher numbers. We've seen the Fraser River sheep go from 2,500 to 600-800 sheep.
600-700, yeah.
So, as horrible as this Bluetongue event is, Bluetongue virus event is, Movi's even the bigger sort of culprit when it comes to wild sheep issues in British Columbia. But anyway, we want to get Pete on, hear his input and what he's seeing on the ground there. We talk a little bit on the science edge of things. Obviously, we're not scientists or biologists, and Helen Swancha, we're going to have her on the show here in a couple of weeks. We reached out to Helen yesterday to talk about some of these issues, and she's keen to talk to us. So we're going to have her on here. The scientists are the ones that should be commenting on this, but we're providing a little bit of background. We've been shared some information. We tried to dispel some of the myths on that, but again, so take what we're telling you with a grain of salt. But what I can tell you is the stuff Pete tells you about what he's seen on the ground. That's for real. And just heartbreaking to see this Bluetongue virus be so devastating in Grand Forks.
Yeah, I think the main reason the Bluetongue one seems so devastating is because it happens so quick. And there's 20 sheep all within a localized area within sight of the highway, and it's just bang. It went from, hey, what's going on with one of these mortalities to as Pete gets into, multiple collars dropping within hours. And I think that's why Bluetongue looks so devastating right now. But as you say, Movi is the long-term one that's really devastating the herds across British Columbia. You said Fraser River and the other herds that we've worked on as well. So, yeah, it's I don't even want to call it a good episode, but I call it an informative episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not going to spend much time setting it up here. Just have a listen. Peter Gutsche does a great job of explaining what's happening out there, what he's seen. Mr. Gutsche, welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going, Kyle. It's been a hectic couple days here, but still kicking. So,
is that how you pronounce your last name? I've always pronounced it other ways. Like How do you actually pronounce it?
Yeah, it's Gutsche. I get Gucci, Gooch. A few years back at the Wild Sheep Foundation Sheep Show, I actually won one of the raffle hunts, and I got it. It was Peter Gutsche on the announcement, and I was standing there having a beer with a couple of friends, and I'm like, I think that might be me. I'm not really sure, but yeah.
Okay, good. Clarify. Get that out of the way immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good to see you got your sense of humor. It's been a heavy week. The reason we're here is to talk about this disease event in Grand Forks and Granby. Peter, you've been on the ground, and really, you're kind of our lead guy on the ground when it comes to projects. You're out there with a lot of these projects. You've been very involved with the Fraser River Project and now Grand Forks. So, and you're a bit of a celebrity now too. Apparently, you're going to be on the National tonight, so that's really cool, but unfortunately, the circumstance of events is not cool about it. So, Pete, just give us kind of your high level, what you've seen, a timeline of events and of what's gone on in the last week around this Bluetongue virus that's affected these Granby sheep.
Yeah, I mean, it's all happened super quick, right? We first caught wind of it kind of internally last week on Friday. When we knew that a couple callers had gone down in pretty short order. And at that point, they just, the ministry staff scrambles, whomever they can get out there. In this case, it was a couple members from Okanagan Nation Alliance that whipped down there from the Okanagan Valley, went straight to the mortalities, and then they basically took, I believe, 3 or 4 sheep that first night, and just organized to get them straight to Abbotsford to the lab for testing. To see what the heck was going on.
So sorry, Pete, for those that don't know, can you explain what you mean by a collar going down? Like, what is a collar and how do you guys know what's going on with them?
Yeah, so these GPS collars that we funded through Wild Sheep Society of BC as well as Wild Sheep Foundation. We had 12 collars out there, and they get these ones that you can change all the different settings on them, but these particular ones were pinging every 4 hours. And so you basically the biologists that are tracking this stuff, they get a ping every 4 hours on their computer or whatever program they have going on there, and it shows the location of the sheep, and then so if they get one, I guess if they get 2 in a row in the exact same spot, then it starts to send off a mortality signal, which just suggests, hey, the sheep's not moving or the collar's not moving. It could be maybe they just slipped the collar, who knows, right? But so they get those things, and so our biologists here in the Okanagan had I think it was 4, maybe I'm mistaken, maybe it was only 3 initially, but it was within a 2-hour period, a couple of these collars dropped off and started showing the mortality signals, and so at that point they just scrambled to get someone out there to investigate right away.
Wow. Okay, so. Obviously on the ground there, and right away we're hearing about this. I know you reached out really early to me about it. So what was the cause, or what's the thought? Because I know Kylie Thacker, the provincial veterinarian for Flynn Row, she talked a little bit about that yesterday. I've seen a little bit about it. So, and if you get the wording wrong on how you say the disease, I get it. But give us the high level stuff of what's going on with the actual disease.
Yeah, so of course they need to get testing done to confirm what they think it is. They just from one of the ONA members there, Addison Fosbury, he's a biologist with ONA, and so he was one of the guys that was out there right away, and just from his knowledge of wildlife, he was able to determine pretty quickly, here's what I'm seeing on the ground. He's phoning Craig McLean, our provincial bio here in Penticton, saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing, anything else I should be looking for, that kind of stuff, and just trying to diagnose just on the ground firsthand what they maybe suspect. We knew already through testing when we captured those sheep that it wasn't Movie out there. We know all about Movie going on here in the province, but it wasn't that in that area, and so they ruled that one out kind of right away, or they thought that's probably not what it is. And one of the first things Craig asked Addison to look for was, is there swelling in the mouth, anything of that nature? And so Addison checking that out, he determined, yeah, it does look kind of like this this Bluetongue, or I can't pronounce it very well. Epizootic hemorrhagic disease, I believe. Again, I'm no bio, so that's probably as close as you're going to get. But they suspected that right away, but they can't release that information. They can't say this is what it is until actual testing gets done in a laboratory. And then there's even subsequent testing in multiple laboratories. So they did it initially in Abbotsford, then it gets sent out, I believe, to Winnipeg or something like that, for just sending it to multiple labs to really confirm, hey, this is what we have going on. We need to know what it is before we can really say anything. So that was kind of the initial process. We were down at Jurassic for the weekend, right? And I was talking with a biologist down there, Chris Proctor from Region 3, and kind of just picking his brain over it too, because it's the first I had ever heard of Bluetongue. And so, just trying to get ahead of things and educate myself, because I knew this was kind of coming out, and trying to scramble my week at home here. Had a bunch of stuff on the go that I basically just dropped, from 1 minute to the next, and said, no, I gotta get out there and see what this is, what's happening.
Right on, Pete. Well, we can't thank you enough for what you've done and being involved in that project and being on the ground and so involved with everything. And I know you're super passionate about those sheep as well. There's a couple things I want to talk about. First of all, what causes this disease? Let's just talk a little bit about it. So again, no secret, we're not bios, we're not scientists, but we have kind of done our research. I know Pete's been very involved with the bios in the area. We reached out to the retired Flynn Roe vet, Helen Swansha. Kylie Thacker's weighed in with some stuff, and we're getting a bit of a better understanding of it. But Pete, you want to talk a little bit about where Bluetongue comes from, how it's transmitted, and why we really haven't heard about it, that sort of thing. And I'll fill in a little bit too. I've talked to Helen on the phone yesterday about it. So again, don't rely on us as the non-scientists, but for our listeners, we'll give you a little bit of background on what we've learned about it. So.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, again, based on what I know so far, it's a totally naturally occurring disease. It's carried in midges or no-see-ums, basically just flying little mini mites, super tiny critters. And I can vouch that there's a billion of them out there right now in Grand Forks. And so they serve as the vector. So they pick it up typically, from what I know, from a vertebrate, that they're feeding off of. Then they carry this disease and they just fly around and carry it, and then they go land on another animal, have another bite somewhere, and that's kind of how it gets transmitted. So typically, this is not something we see in Canada. It's usually more 30 to 40th parallel kind of thing. It has been seen, up to the 50th parallels, more recently. But it's throughout the world. It's not just a North American thing. It's not a U.S. thing or anything like that. They have it in Australia. They have it in Asia. It's everywhere. And so it's just a matter of the mix coming together when it comes to climate. We had a really hot, dry summer here throughout the interior, throughout the province for that matter, and that's something that can exacerbate things. It just lets those midges be more prolific than they would normally be, and then also prevailing winds can kind of help to do that too. So we're finding that they're losing a bunch of whitetail down in Washington State around Colville right now. We've heard rumors of whitetail dropping in Grand Forks, but I haven't seen that firsthand. I can't confirm that. But those are kind of the two species that typically get more affected by this, at least on the wild side of things. Mule deer and elk seem to be a little bit safer from it for whatever reason. I don't know that, but yeah, that's kind of the transmission side of it.
Okay, right on. Yeah. And when I spoke to Helen yesterday, she kind of mentioned that there are cases of outbreaks of it in Canada. It does happen from time to time. She figured there was one back in 2018. So we do see this occasionally, but it's just not super prevalent. Okay, so one of the things let's talk about briefly is how do we treat this? What do we do? How do we get rid of it? And when does it go away? Or is it going to kill all our sheep in BC? How does it work?
Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge, there's not really much we can do for it. Really, it's a natural thing, and what we really need is a frost. As soon as that temperature hits zero, those midges die, and then they can no longer transmit because they're dead. So that's really what we need. There's rumors out there about salt and all these other different things, and they do, salt serves to, or salt, salt that is high in sulfur. That is something that it keeps bugs off you. It doesn't do anything on the disease transfer side of things. It just, the bugs don't like you when you have more sulfur in your system. So same for us. Like if you eat a lot of garlic, you typically don't get as many mosquitoes landing on you. That kind of deal. But it has nothing to do with the actual disease transfer side of it.
Okay, really good info there, Pete. Thanks. Yeah, we're seeing some funny conspiracy theories, people commenting on this, and yeah, it's good to rely on the scientists and hear from the Kylie Thackers of the world to really what's required. And of course, there's a lot of distrust of our government out there anyway. But yeah, definitely relying on the Kylies and the Helens of the world and the Craigs and Chris's. That's the important part with regards to what these sheep need. But okay, well, that's good background. Okay, so you were on the ground there, Peter, and you've seen firsthand, and I know it was a pretty emotional time for you. I've kind of talked to you a little bit about it. Can you just tell us what it looked like on the ground, what you seen there, what your experience was, and also, I know you're there with one of our former directors and a Wild Sheep Society BC life member, a real dedicated guy to wild sheep conservation, and happens to be a domestic sheep farmer as well, Brad Seaman. So I know Brad's really passionate conservationist, and maybe just talk about that experience of being there and being out on the ground with Brad and what that was like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brad was at Jurassic last weekend too, and so we were chatting about this a bunch, and him and I were going back and forth, and he was really the one. He's like, dude, you got to get down here. This is bad. Like he went out the first morning when he got back from Jurassic, and he found the initial, besides the collared sheep we already knew about, he found another four sheep, all ewes, that were deceased along the highway. He messaged me. He's like, dude, you got to get here, and so that's what, at that point, that's when I was scrambling to take off. My truck was out of commission. It broke down on the way back from Jurassic. So I'm phoning buddies and I'm like, hey, who's got a truck? I need a truck, and I'm going to make a mess of it. I'm sorry, but like, I just got to get down there. And so, a friend of mine stepped up. And so I just ripped down, met up with Brad. Again, he was integral to helping me see things. I would have just been looking, driving around looking for stuff. I don't know that herd super well. I see it when I drive through, going out to the Kootenays or whatever, but he lives there. He sees those sheep all year round. He watches them lamb. He watches them, year round. And so, and I already knew, what the mood was going to be, because he wasn't shy about saying his feelings already. And when he first found those four sheep, it was pretty devastating for him. And so, we got together. He took me right out to those four sheep, and it was a hot day. By the time we got out there, it was already the afternoon. And he slowed down because he knew right where they were. And like, we rolled the windows down in the truck, and like, you could just smell death right away. You could just smell rotting flesh. And right off the bat, you're just like, oh, this is not good. It just hits you. Like, it's one thing when you see something, but when you get that smell associated with it too, and it just hits you really powerfully. And so, I mean, I don't know, sadness, devastation, pick your word, whatever you want to use there. I was feeling all of that. And so, we basically, we got wind too from, he was talking with a bunch of the local landowners. People were calling around already. And so we'd then since learned of another sheep that was down. And so, we first went to that first one, checked it out. They were telling us it was a ram, and it would end up being a ewe. But, anyway, we walked around a little bit, and then moved to a second spot where his initial four were. And as soon as we parked the truck, I'm like, hey, there's one. Is that one of the sheep right there? And he's like, no, that wasn't here this morning. And then we look around, and like, there's another one. And then we go, it was literally like, and that's where I did the Instagram story on my private feed there. Just kind of, it was from that evening where, I don't know, I put the words together at the moment, but it was just devastating, heartbreaking. Like, you literally didn't even have to look really hard. There's dead sheep all around you. And, man, they were perfectly fine 2 weeks ago. There was nothing wrong with them. They were super healthy, happy animals living their life, and now they're just gone. They're just dead, rotting there, and they're no good to anybody for anything.
Yeah, that's heavy stuff, man. What are we looking at in numbers? I've heard 20. I think the media is reporting that. I've heard that. Are you still thinking it's that two dozen type thing? Obviously, no idea. There's 200 to 300. I think the Gilpin herd has 200 to 300. Am I correct in that, roughly?
Yeah, I've been hearing kind of from the bios here, 230 to 250 seems to be the consistent number they think of right now. Again, from going out with Brad, like he took me after we went and looked at all those dead ones. He took me on a bit of a tour up into the silt properties. Again, I had never been there before, so he took me in there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this is this place, and this is that place, and normally there's 10 ewes over here, and there's 20 up over there." And he goes there all the time. Like he knows those sheep. It's like me, here in Penticton, I go and look at the Vassal sheep all the time, and I know basically every rock that they bed on and stand on and do their thing on throughout the year. You get to learn that when you get to see them that often. And he was distraught. He was like, "Dude, there's no sheep here. Like we should have seen 50 sheep right now, and there's nothing. There's not a single live animal anywhere in sight." And so typically with this blue tongue, they estimate kind of a 60 to 80% die off. My gut feeling is it's worse than that. I can't really say, I can't say that for sure. Again, I'm not a scientist, but man, we're not seeing anything alive out there. I went back, so I came home after that initial trip. I was kind of just pretty messed up mentally, and just wanted to get home and see my kids and see my wife and have a shower, and it just kind of reset. And then yeah, I ended up going back out again yesterday. Again, I went with Addison from ONA, and we went down there. That we knew that CBC wanted to do some interviews with people that were on the ground and see stuff firsthand, and so we went out there and kind of did that with them. We also had a new caller location from Craig, and so we went down with the telemetry gear to try to find that animal. It had been not moving much at all for the previous 3-4 days, which is suggesting that probably it's not in a good health. And so, yeah, we just went looking for that animal. We did still ping it on the antennas. It was coming back as still being alive, but we didn't get a visual sight line on it. Again, we were with the CBC fellows at that point, and I got to say they were class act. I'm really excited to see what comes of this thing, but we didn't want to take up too much of their time as well, because we wanted to show them some of the deceased animals that we knew of already for their piece. And yeah, I don't know. I assume that animal's probably dead by now. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. But there's no live animals. We went right back to the scene where Brad and I were, where we'd seen those eight dead sheep within, again, a couple hundred yards of each other. And there was 2 more fresh ones that were dead there last night. So yeah, man, damn near broke down in tears there on the side of the highway again, and just devastation, distraught.
Horrendous, man. That's heavy stuff. And I know you guys are, it's one thing, I feel it too, but to be there and experience that and see the carnage and it's something that, we've invested as an organization a lot of time, effort, and money into, right? We believe in that herd. We want to see the future of those bighorns, and to lose them, it just, it's heart-wrenching just sitting here at home, but to be there on the ground, I just can't appreciate what you've gone through. And then a guy like Brad that lives there, and that's his life, and he goes and looks at those animals every day. Just, yeah. And I guess the other thing, Pete, that I can't help but think it's the middle of August, right? We're not going to start getting cooler temperatures for a while. So, it's one thing if we're sitting here in November and it's been a warm fall and we're going to get a cold snap, but it's the end of August. It could be a long time before we get some more frost, before these midges are affected by this, right?
Yeah, for sure. Again, I mean, I don't know that it's a blanket thing across a population. It seems kind of like they're all getting hit by it. So, I don't know when the next frost is going to be. I looked at the weather reports for Grand Forks for the next couple of weeks or whatever, and it doesn't look like they're going to get one anytime soon. So, yeah, it's basically like wait and see. And as terrible as that is, basically just kind of feel a little bit helpless. But all you can do is try to continue to monitor, and then, by the time fall rolls around, I know that the ministry staff and O&A and us and whoever else can get in there will make sure that we get a good inventory and see what's left, and then we can kind of figure it out from there, right?
Yeah, we've also been advised, as far as I know, that there is no treatment for this other than a cold night, right? There is no broadcast spraying of pesticides that have been suggested. And as you said, the salt isn't working and we're not able to dart them and treat them. And that's basically what it boils down to. All we can do right now is monitor and hope for cold, right? So another question people are asking is, how quick does this virus act?
Yeah, so I can't speak too well to that. It seems like it's been pretty quick. Like we had within the last week here, they're just all gone. So they were, to the best of my knowledge, they were pretty fine still, last week, or at least early last week at the very soonest. But I think the first callers dropped, a week ago yesterday. So, and now we're basically seeing just new dead sheep every day. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the little bit of reading I did on it from that vet manual you and I passed back and forth said that they can be bit and show no symptoms. Then all of a sudden, bang, they just start dropping. And as you're seeing against the fence there's one of the pictures you posted was three sheep together, and they've all piled up, because that just suggests how quick it does act when it finally does take hold, right?
Yeah, there was another ewe that had died like 20 yards from them, and then one of the fresh ones from last night was right beside them as well. So there's 5 sheep within 20, 30 yards of each other right there. It's crazy.
That's unreal. Yeah. Another one that was brought up while we're speaking of that is, why were you not wearing PPE? Is there a risk to humans with this?
No, there's no transfer to humans there. It's totally safe, and I'm getting that knowledge from our biologists, from the wildlife vet. Like it's fine. You're not going to catch something out there. We don't get it from those. As much as the no-see-ums, they're around, the midges, they were all over us when we were out there, but we're not really feeling too concerned about that. You're definitely probably more at risk of dealing with a rotting animal from whatever could be lurking there than anything else. And so that's why I know we put out in our press release, like, hey, don't go touching these animals, like leave them be. And so yeah, just please respect that, is what I would ask to anyone listening to this, is that there's a lot of that's private land out there. I had access from the landowners on the places that I was, as well as when I was with Brad. But yeah, it's we got to be respectful there. There's a lot of people that they own that land, and the sheep are dead on there, and it's not our business to go running around on it.
Yeah, that end, we want to essentially preserve the scene for the biologists to do what they want with the carcasses. Right now, I hate even saying that word, that we're referring to them as carcasses, because yeah, it's finality of it, right? And you can see pictures and video and all that, but yeah, I couldn't even imagine being there, Pete. Just brutal.
So Pete, let's just back the bus up a little bit. I guess one of the questions for our listeners is, why are these sheep colored? So, Wild Sheep Society BC, Wild Sheep Foundation are involved with the regional biologists in coloring these sheep. Do you want to talk a little bit about the coloring project there and that sort of stuff, and the main reason? I guess it's pretty clear that the colors aren't on for Bluetongue virus. That's not why they're there. So do you want to just touch on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, for sure. So, we've been monitoring that herd as we're doing with as many herds as we possibly can monitor, and it's driven a lot by our provincial biologists. So Craig McLean, he wanted to get some collars out there, and I believe he came to us and WSF, and we were like, heck yeah, let's fund that and get some collars on there. They were losing lambs. And they suspected it was Movi, I believe, at the time, and so getting the collars on there was critical to that. To see, or phone calls come in. So we collared those animals initially because of suspecting that there may be Movi in the area. We tested animals. We figured out that was not the case, and then it's putting collars on those animals gives us so much knowledge about how they're using their range. And so for us, it's like, we did those purchases with the Southern Interior Land Trust, where we funded over $100,000. Wild Sheep Alberta helped with that as well. We're just trying to find out, hey, how are these animals using the land? How can we improve the habitat for them to make sure that they stay healthy, right? And so that's the main reason that those collars were out there in the first place, was to get a baseline herd assessment in the area. And I guess with the Bluetongue thing, the reason we were able to find it so quickly was because of those collars, right? Because those collars went down in such a short order, we're basically hitting the panic button here internally and going, okay, we need to figure this out right away, what's going on here. And so, otherwise the sheep would have died the same way. We just wouldn't have learned about it quite as quickly, and we wouldn't, we might not have been able to assess what it was, because by the time we get to the body, it's totally rotted out. And I mean, as gross as this is, I can attest to the ones that I saw with Brad on Tuesday evening, and then seeing them again last night on Thursday evening. They looked a whole lot different, and you wouldn't want to touch them at this point. Like, they're disgusting.
Yeah, unbelievable. All this heat as well, and then of course they're going to start getting predators on them, birds and that sort of stuff. So yeah, not a pretty sight. I just can't imagine. So you brought up the collaring project, and that really the heart of this is around trying to determine the cause of any lamb mortalities that we've been seeing the past few years, and the suspect again being MOVI, Mycoplasma ovi pneumonia. So really that's the reason they're there, but this was a great catalyst or tool for us to learn about this early. The Wild Sheep Society BC is obviously very invested in that Gilpin herd in Region 4 there. We put money towards the Southern Interior Land Trust land purchase. They bought DL 492 and DL 493, and our members put money towards this. This has been a big undertaking for the society. So it's heartbreaking to see this, and you kind of go, oh man, we put all this money, time, and effort into these sheep, and here we are. But just like anything else, it's not completely at a loss. Obviously, we've lost these sheep now, but there's going to be a recovery. What's kind of the next steps that you see? Like, we can't do anything about the disease and the Bluetongue aspect of it. What should we be thinking about? What can our members do to support this? What can other people do to support this in terms of moving forward, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, for this specific herd, we got to kind of wait and see for right now. I know when they were transplanted there back in the 80s, it wasn't a large number that was transplanted. So as long as we get, I think the number's kind of in the 30 to 50 range. If there's that many animals still left by the end of this, then it's completely expected that they'll recover on their own. And so for us, it's really like, what can we do? Can we help to improve that habitat still in the meantime? Excuse me. Obviously, we'll continue to monitor them, probably put out more GPS collars on the remaining animals so that we can really keep track of them. I would assume that's going to be something we'll do here moving forward. But really, it's just that, the fact that we had that stuff out there in the first place, the fact that we put this money down on the ground, and we learned this stuff quicker. In this case, this is a pretty freaky disease that just hits so hard and so fast that you kind of get a little devastated by it. But we know, through our MOVI works that we're doing along the Fraser, that we're making a positive difference on sheep right now with some diseases out there. And it's not just for the Granby herd here. It's not just to, leave them be and whatever. Like, we'll continue to do whatever we can to try to increase that population. But we know we're on the right track with other stuff as well, and we're just going to continue to push forward.
Right on, man. Well said. And for you listeners, for maybe they're not a member of the society, this is kind of your opportunity to, get involved and be more proactive and do more for those sheep. I know our members do a ton. With the silt land acquisition, we had a ton of people step up, putting money towards this. We had one of our Monarch members put $25,000 to the second land purchase that we did. So we'd love to have more people involved. The more we have involved, the more work we can do for advocating for these animals. Yeah, this was a freak thing. There's nothing much we can do, but moving forward, We do know that Movi is a thing. We were concerned in that herd, and we were getting some data on that. And that project will continue. Craig's going to redeploy those collars, and we'll keep monitoring that herd and see if we can try and pinpoint those disease issues and where we're going. So, so for anyone listening, I would love to have you sign up as a member and support what we're doing and just keep the good work going. And that Gilpin herd will be back. It's going to take some time. It's obviously a huge loss. We don't know the extent of the loss at this point, but as we learn these things, there'll be a lot of stuff that we can do. The big thing that our projects chair, Chris Barker, said is, hey, we need to hammer the habitat piece now, right? So, we've got a great working relationship with the Southern Interior Land Trust, supporting them through that land purchase. And that's one of the things moving forward is that we'll continue to do. Well, hopefully we can really focus on these habitat pieces and really preserving that land and making sure there's healthy habitat for those sheep to thrive for years to come. So, so Pete, you've been kind of our lead as the director in Region 3 and Region 5 on the Fraser River. You've been active in many other areas as well, certainly in the interior. But, I guess that's one of the things, and somebody mentioned to me, is this is kind of an opportunity to bring awareness around Movi. So, do you want to talk about Region 3 and Region 5 and some of the successes we've seen there? The thing is lots of times we hear these sheep stories and they're like sob, boohoo, and this is another classic case. But we've actually got some success stories out of the Fraser River. So do you want to just touch a little bit on that project and how important it is to us and some of the good work that's being done there?
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. I've been so fortunate just to be able to get out there on the ground, and I know there's a ton of folks reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, I want to get out more," and we got to say no all the time because there's certain things we can get members out there for and certain things that we can't, and a lot of the times, even me, I want to get out on everything, and I keep getting told no by the biologists. So once in a while they say yes, and I jump at the chance. And but no, out there, we're now on year 3 of this Fraser River Bighorn project, and the first year we went out there, it was strictly just a capture, net gunning, capture, collaring. Samples for blood, hair, fecal, everything you can think of. We took it, and then we just released those animals within like a 5-minute period. And that was the initial herd health assessment. And so we went up and down the Fraser on both sides from, just north of Lillooet up to around the High Bar area. And just to kind of see, Movi was suspected throughout, and confirmed by those samples that we took. And then, through Chris Proctor, the regional biologist in Kamloops, they determined specific ewe groups or nursery groups that they wanted to target that had 2 main factors. One was high prevalence of Movi, and the second one was low connectivity to other sheep in the area. Like, sheep always move in there, but the nursery groups tend to stay in a smaller range. It's usually the rams they're traveling around. And so on year 2, we went back in. That was last year, late February, early March, kind of right as COVID was developing, just before we got shut down in Kamloops, all of that business there. We went in there and did a capture and remove project. So we went after a specific herd near Ward Creek. It had 47 animals in it, and we captured every single one with the amazing piloting skills of Ben Barakoff, who he is, man, I can't say enough good things about that guy. He's just incredible. He's the guy that just donated the Rosie hunt to us that we drew. Like that guy gives so much back to us. He basically does that work for free. And that's, we're talking about flying a helicopter around for hours and hours every day. That's not cheap. He basically just does it at cost. And so we went in there, we captured every single animal in that herd over the span of about 7 to 8 field days. We found out that there were 8 positive animals within that group. And I should say too, like, this was in collaboration with Lillooet Tribal Council and High Bar. Like, a number of First Nations were in there. We, and representatives were with us while we did this work. We also had Filter Studios there working on our Movi film at the time. and they got all of this documented. I took some photos along the way as well, and just to try to raise as much awareness as we can. But so we ended up euthanizing 11 sheep there that were positive, which was heartbreaking. You know that the sheep are sick, but you don't want to just kill it. That's pretty brutal. So, but anyway, we had conservation officers there to help us do that stuff. Helen Schwancha, who was at the time still the provincial wildlife vet, she was there kind of leading things alongside Chris Proctor. And so we removed those ewes that were positive, and we then went back, and again, this was in February, March. We then went back and did our Fraser River sheep counts the following summer. So just a few short months later, after they had lambed, we went in specifically looking to see if the lambs were surviving, because typically with Movi, they'll die within the first 2 months of life. And so that's just a product of sheep being super social animals. They rub noses with each other all the time and do all that stuff, and they just spread disease, really quickly that way. And so we were so pleasantly surprised throughout the summer that, hey, these, we found that very same nursery group. And, I know firsthand, I was there alongside a fellow director, now Secretary Greg Rensmag. He was helping out a ton there. We had a number of members out there helping us for these counts, and we're seeing, almost a 1-to-1 ratio of ewes and lambs throughout the summer. And, we expected to see that in June. We weren't sure if we were going to see it in July, and we did. We saw it again in August, and we were just like, heck yeah, this is working. Ministry staff went in and did an aerial survey. I believe it was in November, and they confirmed the same things. We were looking at, a 50 to 60% lamb retention in the area where previously nothing was surviving the first couple months. So that's just massive. Like, that is a massive, massive success. We can't say that, and I can't go and say right now that that's going to be the case for forever. I don't know. There's, but that's a heck of a first step, and that's inspiring all of us, and the ministry staff and everyone included on this project. We're like, okay, we need to get the ball rolling on this. We need to get serious about this. We need to do this entire 150 kilometer corridor along the Fraser, because we can get rid of Movi. We believe that now, and we know that it's happening down in the States as well, and they're seeing similar results. So yeah, I mean, moving forward, I'm so excited about that. It's a big project. It's going to take us another 7-8 years probably to do that, and we're looking at probably 150K per year, something like that for that. It's going to be big. It's not a small thing, but those sheep populations right now in that entire area are sitting around 650 animals, where traditionally they were 2,500. So, if we can get them back to that is a hell of a conservation story as far as I'm concerned.
I think what it does, Pete, is it's our legacy, right? This is our opportunity to leave a legacy for the future of wild sheep in British Columbia. We can actually transform the landscape. Like you said, they went from that 2,500 down to these, all-time low numbers and not recovered. We know Movi's the issue. That's been proven now. Scientists know this. The biologists know this. And with this new, basically test and remove, approach to it, which has been proven, very well proven in Hell's Canyon and to a lesser extent here in BC now recently with the Fraser, we can change the face of wild sheep in British Columbia. These bighorns can come back to those traditional numbers, and we can do our part. So I'm really excited about it. The downside is it comes at an 8-year cost, and 1.1 million is what, Chris Proctor is telling us that we're going to need to invest in it. So we got some heavy lifting over the next 7 or 8 years to do. But I can tell you, people are passionate about it. Our members are passionate about it. They step up. They're getting involved. And there's other organizations that have stepped up as well. We've seen the Wild Sheep Foundation contribute to this project. Obviously, HCTF, a no-brainer. Even Cabela's, they donated $5,000 a few years back. But we have Abbotsford Fish and Game Club. They stepped up this year, $17,500 towards this project. Midwest Wild Sheep Foundation has contributed. So a lot of benefactors there that want to be involved in this. And I'm really encouraged. We're seeing some. Chris Proctor said it best to me. He goes, "I never get to tell success stories in my job." He goes, "It's always doom and gloom. Wildlife in BC, it's so challenging. There's so many struggles. Loss of habitat, all these disease issues." And he goes, I wake up in the morning, I think about these sheep because we're actually doing something that benefits wild sheep, and it's a success story in my job. And so he's jacked about it. I'm jacked about it. I know you are, and I think that as an organization, we can really leave a legacy for wild sheep in the province, and I think we're going to make a difference. We already have made a small difference, but I think that we could leave a legacy behind us that people will talk about 100 years from now. So pretty encouraging stuff, and I thank you for all your commitment work that you do in the field all the time with that, Peter.
Well, it was it was the die off of that herd that was kind of the beginnings of Wild Sheep Society BC, right? That it's that herd dying off in the mid 90s that concerned the original guys that started this up. And I wasn't around at that time, so I can't speak for them, but they were worried about the California bighorns all along the Fraser River. And now science has caught up to things. We back then we didn't know what the heck it was, and now we do, and now we know how to solve that problem. And so, man, I'm just honored to be a small, tiny part of this project. And I'm going to continue to do everything I can. And I'm going to continue to tell everybody I know about it and promote it and encourage people to continue to, whether that's step up in whatever form you can. If that's monetary, that's awesome. If that's volunteerism, your time, that's awesome. If it's likes and shares of posts on social media, that's also awesome. Like, everything helps right now. And so, we're just going to continue doing what we do, and there's going to be new people stepping in at all times. It's going to just continue. We're showing that good work can be done, and we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, right on, man. And you're kind of our poster boy, Pete. You're out in the ground, you're doing the heavy lifting, but then on top of it, you're advocating. You've stepped up. You're a Monarch Silver member, which means that you've donated a bunch of your personal money to this cause. And just can't thank you enough for your commitment to wild sheep. And this past week, and all the media outreach you've done, just fantastic, and really, really grateful for everything that you've been doing, man. So with that, any last thoughts or parting words, or anything we need to think about, or anything we missed on the podcast? And otherwise, I'll let you get back to your day. I know you got a busy day planned again with this Grand Forks debacle. So
yeah, no, I mean, I think we've kind of already hit most of it. It's just, you gotta, I don't know, I like to stay positive, right? This is crappy what's happening in Grand Forks right now. There's no denying that, but we're also seeing successes. We're also contributing to positive habitat enhancement throughout the province. We're pushing for burns up north. We're pushing for burns down south. We're in the weeds everywhere right now. And man, that's everyone on our board. We're having members come up to us suggesting new projects that we should be looking at. It's inspiring. It continues to inspire me every day. I sit here and get a new email from Chris Barker or from Josh Hamilton up north or whatever, or Robin Rutledge. Like, everyone's pulling their weight, everyone's doing what they can. And we all continue to inspire each other, and new members come and reach out to us all the time, and they're inspired. And, it's like this, just, I got to get a little gushy about it. Like, it's really special to be a part of this. And I'm truly excited for the future, as much as, we are seeing some bad disease stuff go on. Like, we're doing so much good right now, and it's not just a toot our own horns. We truly are. We're making a difference on the landscape for wild sheep, and it's just incredible to be a small part of it.
Well said, man. And I think you talk about the positivities. There's still some great property there, and yeah, we had this die off. This Bluetongue virus is going to go away. We know that. It's not a perpetual thing. Movi is a much bigger thing, as we alluded to already. So, there's more work to be done there. But the cool thing is through our partnership and working and supporting SILT, Southern Interior Land Trust, we've set that land aside. So that land there is there for perpetuity. So it's really encouraging. So what we really need to do now is focus on that habitat component, make sure that land is healthy and protected so that those wild sheep can come back and have healthy populations and thrive for generations to come. So yeah, absolutely 100% agree. Yeah, there's a bit of a dark cloud with the blue tongue thing, but the cool thing is it's not permanent. It's going to go away. Hopefully this is a flash in the pan that we'll never see again, and we'll build this herd back up and see healthy sheep on the landscape back in Grand Forks for centuries to come. So my friend, I want to thank you for all you do for the society. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. I know, just trying to coordinate this was really challenging. You're like, oh, I'm meeting with CBC today, and I'm meeting with the Gazette here and there. So, thanks for making it a priority for us. I know that you're in high demand now, and just fantastic work. And thank you for all you do as a director for the society. We're just so grateful.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Steve. Absolute pleasure to be on here with you guys, and we should do it more often.
On better terms,
Absolutely.
though.
On better terms, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Have a great day, Pete.
Yeah, you too, guys. Take care.